Fun fact, did you know that every time you pull the trigger and fire around, your barrel starts to heat up because of the friction and gas of the round traveling down the barrel? When you slap a suppressor onto the end of your barrel though, what you're doing is creating a space for all of that superheated gas to be dispersed in the can's baffles in order to reduce both the flash and the sound in what's called waste heat. This trapped gas contacts the internal surfaces of the suppressor's metal over a longer time and with more turbulence, causing the suppressor to become superheated. This heat is an instant burn risk for any exposed skin. It also causes mirage down at the dangerous end of your barrel, which can occlude your vision. Can a suppressor cover help mitigate that heat and make it better to shoot with a suppressor? Let's find out. Before we start getting into the testing phase of this one, let's talk about can covers just for a second. Now, it's easy to see something like this on the end of a cool guy's rifle and immediately think that it's exactly what you need to solve all of your suppressor woes. And trust me, if you're a new suppressor owner, you're probably gonna run into some issues that you weren't thinking about as you get more into using suppressors to protect your hearing while you're out on the range. Primarily though, you want one of these for extra protection from the heat. If you're anything like me and you've been shooting suppressed for ages, then you already know what happens when you drop your rifle on your sling to transition to a pistol after a long string of fire.
Remember, switching to your pistol is always faster than reloading.
That hot suppressor is going to hit your upper thigh and you're going to immediately regret it, especially if you're wearing any kind of spandex in your jeans or something. A suppressor cover's primary job is to prevent that from happening, but it also has a few other side effects as well. Mitigating heat mirage from obscuring your view as you shoot, protecting the finish of your probably very expensive suppressor from nicks and scratches, and also reducing your infrared signature if you're actually one of those cool guys who do cool guy things. And these are all things that a good can cover can do for you outside of just looking cool on the end of your rifle. Now, when you're looking at these, they generally come in a few different flavors. On the very low end, you have suppressor covers that are not meant to be shot with. You're gonna see a lot of these on the airsoft kids' rifles while they're doing their best Navy SEAL impression out on the BB gun battlefield. Now, I've seen guys mess this up, so make sure if you're planning to actually use a can cover on your rifle, you don't get one that's just a Cordura wrap meant for airsoft use or for protecting your can from getting scratched while you're transporting it around during a competition or something like that. You wanna get one that's heat rated. Now, a step up from that, you've got your fiberglass and your silicone can covers that are more on the budget spectrum, like this GPS tactical suppressor cover here. These guys are only gonna run you between like 40 and 50 bucks because they use overseas manufacturing and some cheaper materials while they're doing it. But theoretically speaking, they should get the job done. Now, we're gonna find out how good they are at getting the job done just a little bit later. To really maximize what you can get out of a cloth material though, you need to step it up into the really high-end fire-resistant materials like Aramid. If you take this Liberty Defense can cover here, for example, this is a straight jacket for the RC line of suppressors. It's made from a combination of Kevlar, amorphous silica, basalt, and aluminized silica that's all joined together with Kevlar and stainless steel thread to create a cover that's going to resist sustained temperatures up to 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. But for that kind of protection on the end of your suppressor, you're looking at spending close to $400. But with suppressors getting more and more popular with the elimination of the added $200 cost from tax stamps, we've seen Magpul also enter into this space with their new suppressor cover too. This thing right here is designed specifically for the Surefire RC2, and it keeps a slight standoff from the suppressor so that you don't have the insulation problems that you get with a regular cover. Now that said, I don't have any real world experience with this Magpul one yet, so we're gonna head out to the range and see how this $100 option holds up something to like the Liberty Defense can. I just hope that this RC2 suppressor cover will work with my Surefire RC3. I guess we're gonna find out together. All right, so to start our testing, we're gonna fire 30 rounds through just a Surefire RC3 with no can cover. We've got a GoPro set up on the side here. I had to take my laser off to do that. And what this is gonna do is hopefully it will allow us to see the heat mirage off of the suppressor. Now to start, we're gonna take the temperature of the can before we shoot, and then we'll take it again after we shoot. So let's take the temperature first with this super high speed Master Force guy here. This thing goes up to about 1,000 degrees, so hopefully we don't get too much hotter than that, just shooting 30 rounds, but we'll see. So let's take our ambient temperature first. CJ, let me know if you can see that.
Yep.
All right, so we're at
degrees.
60.1, 60.2 degrees. That's ambient air temperature. And then let's go ahead and take our first 30 shots. We're gonna fire these in 5-round strings. So it'll be 5 rounds, pause, 5 rounds, pause, 5 rounds, pause, just to heat up the suppressor. All right, so let's go ahead and heat up the suppressor with no can cover first. And here we go. Kind of hard to shoot with this GoPro, but we'll make it work. And that should be it. Looks like our GoPro dipped a little bit. See if I can angle it back up. All right. Can't really see the heat mirage on it, at least with what I'm seeing, but let's get that temperature real quick. All right. So after the first 30 rounds, we are at 530 degrees-ish. Oh, hold on. So we're about 530 degrees after the first 30 rounds. We're gonna let that sit back down to room temperature, and then we're gonna start by installing the GP Systems can cover. That's kind of our budget option. Let's go. Okay, so we have some other people that are coming out of the range, so if you hear other people shooting, guys, we're on a range. You might just hear other people shooting. So we've got the can after the initial string. We've got it down to, we're at about 88, 87 degrees from the base. We're not going to be able to sit here for an hour and a half between each string and wait for it to come back down to room temperature, but 88's not too bad. We just held it over on in front of a fan. So we're going to go ahead and install the GPS can cover now. This is kind of our more budget option. It's a 2-piece system. I'm not sure I'm a fan of the string, but if you're going to use this system, make sure you install the sleeve, because I think if you just put that right around your can at 600 degrees, you're probably gonna melt it to your can and not have fun. So let's install it. All right, so install, and this one's pretty simple. You can definitely feel that it's not like the most expensive material ever, but install was pretty straightforward and easy. Just make sure you remember to put that sleeve on. Let's get our starting temperature and then load and throw another 30 downrange. So with this can cover, our temperature is about 67-ish degrees. Remember, the can itself is probably sitting at about 85-ish right now because we've already shot one string. Let's go ahead and throw our 30 rounds downrange on this one. Losing my target. And we are clear. Temperature on the outside after 30 is 68 degrees. Compare that to the 580 we had on the control. So we're gonna go ahead and turn our GoPro off. And then what we're actually gonna do is we're gonna take this off now. I'm gonna let the can cool off just a little bit, and then we're gonna remove it, and then we'll wait for it to come back down to that same ambient temperature that we had previously in order for us to test the next device. But we're gonna need to take this off early in order to actually get that suppressor down to a regular heat. But as you can see, I can feel the heat coming through this, but it's really not that bad. It's perfectly safe, and we know the internal on that can is probably close to 600 degrees. All right, let's get on to the next one. All right, so we're down to about 88.5. We're gonna throw the Liberty Defense can on next. Everyone's shooting, so it's a little loud. There'll be a little bit less talking. All right, ready?
Yep.
Liberty Defense can installs super easily. Easier when your Surefire is not in the way. And just like that, we're installed. Ambient temperature outside. This is the Kevlar can cover. We're at 62 degrees. We're at 62 degrees. All right, here we go. 30 shots. Had a bit of a stiff trigger there. All right, we are clear. Ambient outside temperature, 65 point, we'll call it 65 degrees. And then we'll just show it, so you can see. And then feel that. No heat at all on the outside of this. So guys, one of the issues that we're running into out here is that I'm actually not able to install this Magpul can cover, which you can see it would kind of go over like this, on my Surefire RC3 because it's designed for the Surefire RC2. Now I was kind of hoping that it wouldn't make that much of a difference because there's not too much of a difference between the RC2 and the RC3. However, in this instance, it's just not going to work. So we're not going to be able to test this Magpul can cover today because I don't have the right suppressor, and I don't think actually anyone I know has a Surefire RC2. So we're going to have to take this one and try it another day. But you can kind of see the intent behind it is that it'll actually sit over the suppressor, and we'll get some B-roll of it in the studio as well. And it'll actually have standoff so that you're able to increase the airflow. And I was actually really interested to see what that would have done, but we're not going to be able to test it today to see. So let's head back to the studio and talk about everything that we just went over real quick. We'll see you there. Okay, so we've seen how just about all of these variants perform right now. It wasn't the most scientific testing in the world, and unfortunately we weren't able to get this Magpul version functioning on my RC3, but the testing does help paint a picture of what you get for your money when you're looking at protecting your can. We've also talked a lot about how a can cover can protect you as the shooter from the heat of your suppressor too, and the other good parts of having a cover on your suppressor as well. But we haven't touched on at all why you might not want to run one of these on the end of your rifle. So let's cover down on that real quick, because with every pro there's always a con. First, there's the heat retention aspect of this. These things are designed to insulate the exterior of the can cover from heat. That means we're holding the heat in closer to the can and not giving it a way to vent the heat away from the device. Now, you probably noticed in some of the footage from the range that we were actually removing the can covers after each round of testing to get the suppressor back close to room temperature. This was mainly a time constraint thing. If we had left the can covers on the suppressor, it would have stayed hotter a lot longer, and we were on a public range. We didn't want to be there all day wasting everyone's time. On top of that heat retention, you also have to realize that you're adding weight to the end of your muzzle with one of these, especially with the more high-end options like the Liberty Defense system here, and even the Magpul system is pretty heavy. The Aramid, the silicon blends, the Cordura, the steel wire, all of that stuff is adding extra weight to the end of your muzzle, and that additional weight adds up even more when you start factoring in the weight of a heavy suppressor all at the end of your barrel. Now, for a lot of people, I personally think suppressor covers are kind of situational, and that in and of itself might be a drawback. If all you do with your suppressor is plink with 22 LR out in the backyard, it might not be something that you need to drop $50 to $400 on at all. Now, if you're running a competition or you're doing tactical shooting with a suppressor on the end of your rifle and you need to hit those transitions from rifle to pistol all the time, by all means, you should definitely look into getting a can cover. Your jeans, especially, are gonna thank you. But then again, so is your range bag out on the bench when you inevitably set that hot suppressor down on top of your range bag and burn it. It happens. Ask me how I know down in the comments section. At the end of the day, I can't tell you if you need a suppressor cover for your rifle or not. You're the only one that really knows the answer to that question based on what you do every time you go to the range. If you're gonna pick one up, make sure you at the very least get one that's rated for the kind of heat that you're gonna be pushing through your suppressor. You saw how hot the end of our RC3 got just after 30 rounds, hitting almost 600 degrees. So think about that and make sure you're getting something that has a heat rating. Because the last thing that you want is a melted plastic airsoft can cover permanently affixed to the end of your $800 Surefire RC2 because you were trying to save $1 on Temu. Something that caught me off guard about our budget option was actually the exterior performance. The two-layer system that GPS uses seems to keep the entire exterior of the can cover cool, whereas our more expensive system and the Liberty has this slit on the back, and that let a little bit of the heat escape from the bottom of the can cover. That said, however, the GPS system probably wouldn't stand up to extreme sustained rates of fire in the same way that the Liberty one did. And I say that because when we were taking this off of the rifle, because it had a really distinct odor coming from it, and it also had a lot of smoke, the interior of this held the heat a lot longer too than the Kevlar fibers inside of the Liberty, which got cooler way, way faster. All right, so if you found any value from this whatsoever and you want to learn more about how barrels work, why don't you go ahead and check out this playlist right here. We're most likely still working on that series if you're seeing the suppressor cover video close to its original release time. Also, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell notifications if you want to be notified the next time either me or CJ puts out a video. We'll see you in the next one. If you have any comments or questions, leave them down there. We'll get back to you guys. We'll see you in the next one. Can a suppressor cover help mitigate that? Let's find out. Helps if I don't put it on backwards.